Welcome everyone to Perched on the Top Rope. I am your host, former dirt sheet writer from Daily DDT, Ringside News, The Sportster, The Richest, and Sportskeeda. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Lee Walker, and I'm just going to dive deep right into it, ladies and gentlemen, as we have some beef between WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash and Logan Paul. On a recent episode of Impulsive, the podcast featuring Logan Paul had Hulk Hogan on the show, where Hulk Hogan talks about shoots and works, and Logan Paul didn't seemingly know what these terms meant. And on Kevin Nash's podcast, Click This, his co-host, Sean Oliver, and Kevin Nash were discussing the recent episode of Impulsive, featuring Nash's former NWO stablemate Hulk Hogan. The episode included the moment where Paul appeared to be unaware of the term shoot meant in wrestling, and when Oliver questioned how Paul wouldn't know the term, Nash proceeded to go off on him in a profanity-laced rant. And these are Nash's comments. "He's not one of the boys," Nash said. "Where would he learn that shit? Where's he going up and down the road talking our jargon in the building? Everybody's in their own fucking motor coach. There's no fucking interaction. There's no socialization. You don't become one of the boys just because you're fucking around them. That motherfucker, from what I've heard, he's making like $5 million for a limited fucking dates. And those other motherfuckers are out there making house shows. Fuck you. Fuck you." Wow. Okay. Well, obviously, Kevin Nash took offense to Logan Paul not knowing that, and Logan Paul responded with a video that I'm going to play for you.
About you. I said, damn, who is Kevin Nash? And I mean that. I'm unfamiliar with this guy, which I think is his problem. I'm not as versed in the WWE and in wrestling as maybe I should be, as my peers are. But then how am I so much better than all of them? You know, I don't have the answers to these questions. It is a question. I don't know how I could be the best in the WWE or at least one of the best. Like, I'm surely a top fiver, and I don't even do it full time. Now imagine if I did learn a little bit. Imagine if I devoted, became one of the boys, learned what the difference between a shoot and a work was. Will that make me a champion? Fuck me. Fuck you. You're one of the old guys who is bitter that I am better at your job than you ever were. And that makes you pathetic. This will be my sport, and I will continue to make guys like you eat your words when I devote a little bit of time to it. So fuck me, fuck you.
So who do you think is in the wrong? Is Nash wrong for his statements, or is Logan Paul in the wrong? If you want my honest opinion, there's faults on both. If you're going to WWE, maybe learn a little bit about what you're getting yourself into. And that's no joke or rib or a shot at anyone's expense. It's just the truth. It's just like anyone who comes in from the NIL program. You should, the college recruiting. You should know about what you're getting yourself into and know a little bit about the history of the company. Because WWE in the past has fired people for that. They fired a writer for not knowing who current superstars were that she was going to be working with, and they fired her because she went on a podcast and talked that she didn't know the product. Another prime example of not knowing the product was on WWE Tough Enough. Naomi's partner, even though it was just Tough Enough, they weren't partners then, But we got the funk. That's right. For those of you who remember, Cameron is one of the Funkdactyls. When Stone Cold asked her what her favorite match was, she came up with some real ridiculous match. It was like Alicia Fox versus, I don't remember who it was, like Victoria or something odd like that, because she didn't know the product and she was ridiculed for that. So if you don't want to be ridiculed, one, know the product, because this is something that you're jumping into. So I think Kevin Nash would be right on that, but Kevin Nash's point was kind of all over the place. He then goes on to say, I'm not going to talk about the money just yet, but going up and down the road, everybody's, antisocial now. It's not the same business. COVID did a lot where it changed a lot of things on how people communicate. People don't want to communicate. And then, you add things like outside influences like Uber or Uber Eats, where you don't have to leave your home, where you can literally just order food from an app and just have it delivered to you. These superstars are doing the same thing. They're in their close-knit groups. When I was in college, I watched groups of friends going out 10, 20, 30 deep, that's no lie, to now when I see friends like my nieces and nephew and things like that in college, their groups are smaller and they're also not even going out as much. They're all staying in. So the idea of going out and being social has become like a not cool thing to do, I guess. I mean, at least up in my way, a lot of people have stayed to their close-knit groups and that's it. And in pro wrestling, I even remember Jeff Jarrett when he was saying goodbye to Owen in the WWF videos for Raw. He said, in this business you have a lot of acquaintances but not a lot of friends. So that's how it was back then, Nash. That's exactly how it is now. Yeah, you guys all talk to each other and this and that, but communication styles have changed. They are not the same. Anyway, I totally got sidetracked with that one. Now the points that Logan Paul made, in my opinion, I feel like Logan's right. He is really good in the business, and imagine if he did dedicate enough time into professional wrestling, just how well he would be. He already comes out and gets booed, but I also think that's impartial because he's being sued for nearly like $68 million between himself and Prime. And let's still not forget the fact that he's not a good person. The whole Japan incident, which Dominic hilariously brought up on the Impulsive podcast when Dominic Mysterio was over there on that show. Now, as far as the money goes, that really should be no one's business, but back in the day I know they talked about it. And it's a big thing now what wrestlers sign their contracts for and how much they make. And, if Logan Paul is making $5 million, good for him. How much is the sponsorship with Prime? How many followers and stuff has he brought to WWE? Has he made a difference in social media when he's brought up for WWE? There's a lot of things that fans don't look at as to why maybe someone's being paid as much as they are. Yes, Logan Paul runs limited dates, as Kevin Nash brought up, but what kind of crowd reaction does Logan Paul get from the crowd? It's usually pretty good. Also look at other factors, as does he help the social media? Has it grown as a result because of him? When he's on, what are the ratings like when Logan Paul is on compared to other wrestlers? Do the ratings go up? Do the ratings go down? These are things that should be looked at and accounted for as to why he's being paid as much as he is. Now, let's not forget the fact that Logan Paul has a huge social media presence, Not only does he have a huge social media presence, he has a young audience, as when he was on YouTube, he was a young audience, and that transitioned with his other social media accounts, which obviously when he started Prime, he's even affected the numbers of Gatorade and Powerade. That's pretty crazy, right? To think that that man with KSI, because of a following from YouTube, could pull away from the number 1 and 2 sports drink companies. Absolutely insane. So, in WWE's eyes, they're getting their bang for their buck out of Logan Paul. Now imagine if he did work a full-time schedule, what they would have to pay him because of all his other endeavors. It would be astronomical compared to the $5 million that he's getting. So both do stand good points. Both have bad points. Now, one thing that fans and wrestlers all themselves look forward to is when the PWI 500 comes out. Wrestlers from the independent scene get hyped for the top 500. I mean, literally any wrestler gets pumped for, the top 500 here. I mean, I would. Why wouldn't you? And, I'm going to start off with one of the more impressive ones. Is coming in at 485. The Moonlight Sun, Mike Skyros from Syracuse, New York. Native reigned as high-tension wrestling champ throughout our evolution period. Held 4 other indie belts to boot. Got the better of TV stars Matt Cardona and Eddie Edwards, picking up wins with indie standouts Warhorse, Kevin Blackwood, and Matt Mikowski. So congratulations to Mike Skyros making your first time PWI 500 and leading the top 10 this year. We start off, ladies and gentlemen, with the undisputed WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is your number 1 wrestler in the world for 2024. Now, following that, we have 2 members from AEW, which are Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay, coming in at 2 and 3. Coming in at number 4, WWE's own Seth freaking Rollins is rounding up the top 5 from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Naito. Now, number 6, WWE's Damian Priest. And number 7, we have MJF. Number 8, AEW's Jon Moxley. While coming in at number 9 is WWE's other champion, Gunther. And rounding up the top 10 from CMLL, formerly known as Sin Cara, or as some fans called him, Botch Cara, Mystico rounds up the top 10 for the PWI 500. And how is this all considered? Well, the PWI 500 considered the prestigious accolade in the wrestling world, recognizing wrestlers based on their in-ring skills, their popularity, and overall impact on the industry. They also take a look at the win-loss record of wrestlers, which is rather funny to me because it's a predetermined thing, but that could go without. So this rounds up your top 10. Now you can go and purchase the magazine, whether you buy it print or digital. You can go to pwi.online.com/product/34th-annual-pwi-December-2024. That's right, it is the December 2024 issue. But we know what we're looking at and what we're getting into. So that's pretty cool when it comes to wrestling, knowing who's where and who's moving up in those ranks. And I'm very happy for all of those who have made the top 10 and for all of those who end up in the top 500. And when it comes to the women, ladies and gentlemen, for the women's top 250, Mommy's on top. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Mommy's on top, as Rhea Ripley will be number one in the PWI top 250 for the women. Now, one thing I asked a lot of you fans on Facebook at facebook.com/perched on the top rope was, how would you describe the run that Okada has had since he signed for AEW? And I'm just going to read off a bunch of the comments. John Starno, fun, ... bitch. Makes sense because that's what Okada's been doing nowadays. I personally think it's funny. We have Carlos Bosco. Okada in New Japan Pro Wrestling equals pro wrestling. Okada in AEW equals sports entertainment. Mark Rowe says lackluster. All he does outside a few matches is walk around on camera and call somebody a bitch. Robert Riggs III, fun but not full potential. Curtis says he's had a few memorable funny moments, but that drop kick is a thing of beauty. I gotta agree. Alan Walker says phenomenal. Are we related, Alan? Lloyd Allen says boring, bitch. Okay. Sean NG of KWK, the Kayfabe Heroes line of action figures, says abysmal. That's fair. Chuang Woon Yu, pretty good. Only those losers would think otherwise. Okay. Michael Coleman, exactly what fans said would happen to him if he signed with the WWE. A lot of fans said if he signed with WWE, he would be a joke. So I'm fairly certain that is what he's referring to. And as I opened the comments even more, I wrote, "How's that?" And Cole responded, "All I heard was he would be a mid-card comedy heel act," and that's exactly what he is in AEW. So okay. Daniel Miller writes, "Been perfect." Stuart Patrick, expected, to be honest. I have no idea why they signed him at such a supposed high-priced contract. These huge contracts should boost ratings and sales like Punk did, yet none of them have, regardless of their booking. Other people he's referring to are Adam Copeland, Saraya, Christian Cage, and he's right, Okada being another one. They have not helped the ratings at all. Kilton James Smith writes, F for failure, period. Soul Goff writes, building slowly but carefully. Already has a persona that Japanese talent struggle to develop overseas. In ring, we know he is good, just a matter of time before it all clicks. And I agree with that comment. A lot of Japanese stars have a hard time adapting to the Americanized style, especially when it comes to charisma and persona. That's actually something I talked to Steve Kern about, who helped train Yoshitatsu in Florida Championship Wrestling, YouTube.com, at Perched on the Top Rope to hear that. Bradley Julian says cash money while holding up a... Must have went to one of the shows because he's holding up one of the $1 million Okada. That's really cool. Holding up a $1 million Okada bill. We have Alexander Todd saying disappointing. That's what your dad said when he saw you. I personally know Alex, so that's okay. T.C. Tao. He needs some milk. Call Kurt Angle. That was pretty funny. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's just some of the comments on the post from facebook.com/perched on the top rope. And while I'm plugging things, I've already plugged YouTube at youtube.com/perched on the top rope. So you can hear awesome interviews like I just brought up about Steve Kern. There's also awesome interviews on there from PN News, Rob Van Dam, Lash LaRue, and more. youtube.com/perched on the top rope. We are on every form of social media, from Instagram at Perched on the Top Rope Podcast. Threads is the same, Perched on the Top Rope Podcast. You can find us on X, Perched Top Rope. We follow back. Oh, it's true. It's true. You can also catch us on TikTok. It's Perched on the Top Rope. And when it comes to podcasts, we are on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Podbay, Red Circle. You name it, we're there. It's Perched on the Top Rope. After all, we are on over 20 different chartables as being one of the top podcasts in the world. Okay, maybe not the world, but we're in 20 different countries, so that's pretty cool. With over 50 different countries listening in, so make sure you tune in, fans. Remember, spoiler freeze, the way to be. I'm out.